nearby Bridgeport. A student is missing and his family is frantic.
Everybody said, oh no, he's not here. You know, try so-and-so's house.
Then, a witness tells a gruesome story and the police go diving to find a body. Facing many questions but no answers, the police turn to Dr. Henry Lee. "15-year-old Alex Palmieri had visited the home of Thomas Mara, a known car thief and FBI informant, and was never seen again. An eyewitness with a history of violent behavior claimed that Mara had beaten Alex unconscious in his garage, stuffed him into a refrigerator, and dumped him into the Bridgeport Harbor. When police could find no trace of the refrigerator near the dock, they turned their attention to the purported scene of the murder, Thomas Mara's steam-cleaned and newly painted garage. Deputy Police Chief Tom Scanlon recently returned to the garage with Dr. Lee and Tim Palmbach, Director of Forensic Science at the University of New Haven, to reconstruct their original investigation. This wasn't a normal garage floor, and that meant they had an outside chance of verifying Spatrino's story.
Not too many times we see wooden floor at the garage.
But would the unusual wood floor yield any clues that an act of violence had occurred here? In the cracks between the wooden floorboards, Dr. Lee noticed traces of what he thought might be blood. A quick test seemed to confirm his hunch, but further testing needed to be done to determine if the stains were human blood that belonged to Alex Palmieri.
That's why we collect the soil sample, we collect the wood sample, the floor, and take back to the laboratory to do more detailed examination.
Our informant information, Dr. Lee, is that Palmieri was standing approximately right in this location and was first struck by somebody standing where you are.
This location. Well, we are not going to expect to find much blood here. Usually when you hit with a baseball bat, the first strike usually don't produce that much blood. However, if the blood coming out, raise the baseball bat, in theory, you should find something here. Looks like there are some tiny blood spatter consistent with a overhead cast-off pattern.
Only one part of the crime scene still hadn't been examined. The rented van that Frank Spatrino and Mara used to transport the refrigerator to the harbor, with Alex inside it, still alive. When police tracked the van down, they found it had been washed several times, inside and out. Still, there was a chance trace amounts of evidence remained. Dr. Lee and Tim Palmbach took the van apart searching for blood. And in the van's recesses, they found what they were looking for.
Well, Tim, it looks like something there. Some crust. Looking like a heavy blood deposit.
As Dr. Lee suspected, blood had dripped down around some of the screws and survived the cleaning up. Forensic tests confirmed that the residue found in both the van and the garage was human blood. After months of diving in the Bridgeport Harbor, they still couldn't find the refrigerator that supposedly contained the teenager's remains, and the state's attorney refused to press murder charges without the victim's body. Was it possible it hadn't immediately sunk to the bottom? Police came up with a unique experiment to find out. They dumped the fridge into the water and got a result no one expected. Investigators reluctantly concluded that the refrigerator, along with the victim's body, probably wasn't even in the harbor, but somewhere out in the Long Island Sound. 2.5 years after Alex Palmieri was first reported missing, police received a call from a woman who had been walking along a Bridgeport beach with friends when she noticed something unusual.
I told them I found a sneaker and they thought I was crazy. So I says, "This is just a sneaker." I says, "Did you ever see one tied with a sock hanging out of it?"
Police rushed the sneaker to Dr. Lee at the forensic lab. It was a men's size 10 Pro Champ, the same brand and size Alex had been wearing when he disappeared. Inside the sock, Dr. Lee found 2 small bones.
And this is an ankle bone, no problem. Around the toe, the big toe.
Dr. Lee sent the sneaker and bones to renowned forensic anthropologist William Rodriguez to see if the bones were consistent with a 15-year-old boy who had been killed within the last few years. Dr. Rodriguez discovered decomposed fat and barnacles on the shoe and sock, which could only have been formed if they were in the ocean for a period of many months. All the forensic evidence indicated that these were Alex Palmieri's bones.
This is what we needed. We needed a body or part of a body, and I think with finding this evidence that we were ready to go to trial.
After a 3-year investigation, Thomas Mara was finally charged with the murder of Alex Palmieri. After only 3.5 hours of deliberation, it found Thomas Mara guilty of murder in the first degree.
This particular case, we was able to establish the crime taking place in the garage, which collaborate with the statement of the witnesses. We was able to establish the transportation. A rented van was used to transport the refrigerator. Some of the blood leaking to the screw area. We was able to establish through the bone, shoes and socks. Alex was in fact murdered and the body thrown in the Long Island cell.